And welcome to the Real World Show with Steve and John Miller. And we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to have Sean Gautreaux on here in about 15 minutes. The becoming well-known UFO researcher, author, and DVD producer. He has an amazing YouTube channel and website, and I will be linking those to this show so you can look at his work. And in fact, let me pull up. I've been watching a video just now of a 9/11 of a pilot that's retired that actually flew the airplanes in question. That supposedly were used on 9/11, and now he's breaking his silence, saying that this never happened. He goes, I flew those airplanes, and I'm going to pull up Sean's site here. But he goes, I flew those airplanes, and I did walk-arounds on them, hundreds of times, if not thousands. And Sean's YouTube channel is Industrial Surrealism. He's a complicated guy, so it's kind of a complicated title, but Industrial Surrealism, Surrealism. That's his YouTube channel. And the stuff he's done is absolutely amazing. And I'm proud to have him on the show today here coming up. But so yeah, all this is coming out about 9/11, and it's like, I think it's now a majority consensus of people that are starting to agree with the quote-unquote twoofers and all these insults I've been putting up with for many years. And because I knew right away this whole thing was a lie and a fraud, because I've flown small aircraft, and I knew it just wasn't true. So anyway, so yeah, I've flown small airplanes with my uncle when I was younger, and put in quite a few hours, and I learned a lot about aviation. I used to build balsa wood aircraft and model aircraft and fly my own models and stuff. So all the truth is coming out. It seems like this spring and summer, and now, of course, Congress blatantly in the faces of the American people signing a letter to support Benjamin Netanyahu's position, which is completely illegal because it's a violation of separation of powers, violation of federal law, violation of the Logan Act. It's insurrection. In other words, by them doing that, they're no longer citizens of this country, and most of the ones that sign that are dual citizens anyway, which is illegal. You can't be in the judicial branch or the executive branch or any branch of government where there's an oath required and have a dual citizenship in another country. So these guys are just blatant, in-your-face criminals and acting as a dictatorship instead of as servants of the people who supposedly voted them in. Now you start to wonder about everything. But so yeah, maybe I'll post that video of this retired pilot that flew all the airplanes that were supposedly involved in 9/11, and he gives a lot of, and he said this never happened. He goes, I don't know how they pulled this off, and he goes into great detail. And as far as what Sean does, he's an amazing individual. And like I said, I'll link to his YouTube channel, Industrial Surrealism. He's got some of the most fascinating research I've ever seen, and so you'll need to check out his research after you hear the interview. And he's exposed these giant ships, for lack of better terminology, flying right over our homes, and sometimes only a couple 100 feet up. And I don't think they're military. I don't think they're even human, if you will. And I've got some evidence to back that up through Dawn Hall, D-A-W-N, Dawn is her name. Last name Hull, like the hull of a boat, H-U-L-L. And if you look at her photographs and videos of these giant ships are all around the sun and all around this incoming constellation of many planets headed right towards Earth, that kind of verifies Sean's work that maybe there's a war going on, and I'm just surmising that the ones that are in our atmosphere are reptilian, maybe, totally anti-human life agenda, and then the ones incoming, maybe this is their planet, their original home turf, and they're like coming home to their turf, and like another, a gang moved in and took over their turf, and that's what I think's going on. Now that's just based on a lot of years of research. I'm not saying I'm 100% right or anything to that effect, but it's just, it makes sense to me when you look at all the available evidence. So yeah, crazy times. Crazy world we're living in, and I honestly believe that we are living on a farm. This planet Earth is a farm. It doesn't belong to us. In the same way, if you're born on a farm and you're a cow or a pig, that farm doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the farmer. And I believe our populations of the human race get to a certain size, and then they wipe us all out. The Old Testament kind of alludes to this. There's like 30,000 other ancient texts too. Most of them much older than the Bible texts that relay the same message, that there was these very advanced civilizations and that wiped themselves out. And I believe this is like the seventh time this has happened, or the seventh dispensation. But will mankind be reconstituted after what I believe is coming? And these giant ships that Sean Gautreaux has exposed these things in the chemtrails. And the guy's a genius, and but will mankind be reconstituted? I would like to think that there will be a remnant that survives. Like Edgar Casey, I believe it was said, you won't believe the brotherhood that will exist and the love on planet Earth after this great war and destruction is over. And he alluded to this time. And I'm not giving, 100% credulity to everything Edgar Casey did. I'm not a believer in gurus. I think for myself. I take information from all different people, all different religious ideologies, and all different, theologies that are found worldwide. And I make my own conclusions. I don't believe in having a guru or giving all my energy to one particular person. Like, there were some things about Dolores Cannon I really liked, but I thought, for the most part, what she did was sell a lot of books and didn't really help out the cause very much. And it was a lot of hearsay and supposition, her books. That, in other words, stuff there's no way you could ever prove. So when I hear of authors and I hear people being interviewed, I won't mention any names, but just certain truth shows will interview anybody. It's like they don't have any discernment. Like this one guest I heard the other night on a particular truth show, an elderly lady saying that we have a new sun and our planet's being dragged out of this solar system, and all this complete nonsense, okay? Because I monitor the sun every day, and I have been doing so for years on my computer through Soho and the different satellite systems forward and ahead and behind satellites through there's Suspicious Observer and Dutch Sense and all kinds of people I've been monitoring the sun through. and people way before them for years, okay? And if the sun, if we had a new sun and we were getting dragged out of the solar system, we wouldn't be talking right now. So it's amazing these people will interview such disinformation liars that are just hungry to get attention, but everything they're saying is a lie and not true and not provable. And we've got to stay away from that. If you can't prove your resources, beyond a reasonable doubt, then you shouldn't interview these people. And there's hordes of them. 90% of the truth shows I look at on YouTube, I look at their guests, and it's complete. None of it's provable. So I'm not interested in wasting my time on it. I'm not going to just sit there and soak in BS and say, well, I'll just have to give this person the benefit of the doubt. No, I won't give them the benefit of the doubt. I want evidence as to what you're saying, okay? And that's just the lawyer in me. If you can't sustain your argument in court, and you have all these reasonable doubts, then I really don't want to be wasting my time on it. And hopefully that'll spread, So and get rid of the disinfo that's out there. But let's give Sean a call and see if we can get him on the line here down there in New Orleans. Get him going here. That's a little bit loud. Sorry about that. So,
Hello.
hey, Sean, how you doing, buddy? This is Stephen John Miller on the Real World Show.
Stephen John Miller, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I was just going over a lot of the crazy things going on in the world and your great work on your YouTube channel, Industrial Surrealism, and it's just amazing, these giant ships flying over our homes and the chemtrails. And go ahead and take the floor, and I'll lead people to your websites and stuff too. So you got the floor, buddy.
Hey, sounds good. Sounds good. I guess I should start saying that I started noticing this stuff in the summer of 2011. And so at this point, it's really 3.5 years into it. And it was just a matter of really noticing changing weather patterns for me. And people in New Orleans tend to really pay attention to weather because we get some strange stuff that happens around here a lot. So I've always kind of had a hobby of photographing or trying to photograph lightning. And when the strange storm started rolling in that summer, I bought a few little HD cameras and started recording. And one of the first strange things I noticed was pink horizontal lightning. And that alone got my attention, and double rainbows and all kinds of weird stuff. So that certainly piqued my interest. I didn't know about the craft at that time. It took a few months to kind of realize more of the picture. So in the beginning, it was a lot of recording, setting up the camera outside and just letting it roll. And I started looking into other ways to view what was going on. Well, I should also say that here in New Orleans in the summer, we usually get storms that come up from the Gulf of Mexico in the afternoon. And about 2 o'clock, they come in and cool us off. And that's been the typical pattern for a long time. That summer in particular, that wasn't happening. The storms were stopping about 15 miles south of here. And I could track that on radar, looking at the government radar, and by my cameras, which can see, pretty far south. I've got a decent view of the sky. So putting those two together, I realized that it just wasn't normal. It just wasn't regular. So another thing that I looked into were NASA satellite images and seeing if there was a correlation there. And I was able to find a site. It was actually through the USGS and NASA. And I downloaded a lot of their satellite images, which also contained a thermal image of the area as well, which really helped out. And we'll get into that at some point. So, I continued to do it through, I guess it was June, July, and into August. And August got really crazy. So that was really just the beginning of it, and trying to piece it all together.
Testify to what Sean's saying here, because I lived in Florida for 25 years, and you would have regular afternoon thunderheads come in. We call them big thunderheads, because like a giant, like almost like godlike storm would just move in and rain for a couple hours every day in Florida. And that started disappearing just in the past few years, I'd say, or Sean knows a better date than I do, because I haven't been in Florida for a few years. But go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, well, it's been going on for quite some time. It's just a matter of me finding it and realizing that this is definitely not normal. So it's been going on here for a while. And once I was able to connect with people online, I was able to realize that there's other people that have been watching this for quite some time. So it wasn't really new in 2011. How long has it been going on? I'd suggest a long time. So I just don't know how long. And so it's really just kind of trying to look at the whole thing from different views. And watching radar and satellite images really helped. And I put a lot of that together, and recently I've kind of addressed the satellite images as well in my videos online. And my channel is Industrial Surrealism on YouTube. The series is called What Is in Our Skies. And I'm continuing to put up movies when I have time. And so now it's over 100 movies, and it's over 6 hours long. I just kind of lost count. And there's plenty of info out there. But so that was the start, and July got pretty crazy with the weather, and it's just documenting as much as I could. But even at that time, just kind of looking through the video that I'd recorded, I was noticing things that went well above and beyond just HARP and radar patterns and things like that. So it was starting to pick up on what I initially called energy vortexes, and it seemed like there was very directed energy up there. And what was it doing? It was stalling or ripping apart these storms that were coming up from the Gulf. And I could watch a big towering cumulus cloud, a storm cloud, come in, and within 7 minutes it was gone. And it's pretty incredible stuff.
Can you hear me all right, John? Okay, yeah. I was just surmising, actually, before I got you on the line here, that because I've seen a lot of the ships, thanks to you, educating me on this stuff and educating probably millions of other people now. And I was just surmising. I don't know if you've seen Dawn Hall's work and her photographs and stuff. Have you? Or?
No, not yet, but I'll certainly look into it.
Okay, well, anyway, look into her, because I was just surmising that we have a war in the heavens, and we always have, and she shows these incredible UFOs, I mean, giant ones all around the sun and out in our atmosphere, not the atmosphere, but out in, not too far out, maybe 30,000 miles out, and then maybe it's a war between two different factions, one that's anti-human and one that's pro-human, but the ships that I've seen that are so huge on some of your work, I just don't believe they're our technology myself. That's just my belief, though.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I've kind of shifted my views over the years. Initially, I thought it was plainly military, because when I started picking up on the craft, I'd go out and see one maybe in an afternoon. But once I realized how to look for them and what to look for, and started aiming my camera in that direction, there was 3, and then 5, and at this point, some days I can walk out and pick out 10 at one time. So the numbers of them really threw me off, because I'm thinking, if this is military, they've certainly got many, many, many thousands of these things. And the size thing, is another big question. Some of them are absolutely huge. And it was looking through the NASA thermal images, because they didn't show up in visual spectrum. They showed up in thermal, and as very cold. So they'd show up as black triangles in these photos. And I was able to take a reading from the land, knowing that, let's say, this little lake is 2 miles across, and compare it to the size of the craft, and I consistently got 2.4 miles on the big ones. And at first, it was just too unbelievable. It was something I looked into that summer, and I just kind of tucked it away, and I figured I've really got to focus on what I'm seeing up above and close, and not really try to gauge size at this point, and try to decipher as much as I could. But 2 years later, I did go through again, and I looked at them, and 2.4 miles is the standard size, and also 1,300 feet is another one. It's a smaller one that I was able to detect. So these things are, they're pretty big. A lot of them are small though too. A lot of them are about 10 feet across, it seems. But the big ones, the ones that are 2.4 miles, that would lead just about anybody to think that it's too big for our military to construct. However, I'll just mention that the Hindenburg in the 1930s was the airship with anti-gravity. I think that one used hydrogen and not helium. But that one was, if you link up 800-foot craft, put 6.5 of them together, you get a mile right there. So that's, the 1930s. I'm not saying that these huge ones are military. I'm just saying it's maybe fourth. I don't really have a huge background in UFOs, so it's been a learning experience for sure.
Sean, I seen in Florida in 2010, the thing I can describe it as the biggest blimp I've ever seen in my life, but it was traveling at a very high rate of speed. It was white, and it had to have been, judging using my fist, is 10, if you look at the horizon using your fist, you can usually use that. The size of my fist is about 7 degrees, and then I do the horizon with my fist, and then I can put the ship on my knuckles, and I can guess its altitude pretty good because I have flown several aircraft, helicopter and fixed wing, and it was up there about 10,000 feet. And this thing, it looked like a cigar, and it was white, and it had no markings on it, and I'm just guessing it was about a half a mile long. And then yesterday, this is just yesterday, I because of you, I'm looking up at the chemtrails, and there was a huge, I didn't have my camera, and I've got a new cell phone, and I haven't figured out how to use that one yet, but this thing was a huge black triangle, and it was too dark, and the chemtrails kind of, it's just hard to describe, and it actually scared me a little bit, because it was only up there maybe 3,000 or 4,000 feet, so...
Sounds like it was pretty close then, actually.
Yeah, it was frightening, and but it was just plain in your face, a black triangle, and I would say probably 2,500 feet across and 3,000 feet long, something to that effect.
Yeah, that's been a really tough thing for me to try to gauge scale, and the only way I was really able to do it was to look at the satellite photos. But yeah, the ones that come up above, they're pretty darn big. It's just I can't tell specifically how long that one is, but it sounds like you can pick them up. So,
well, I use my like I said, I use my fist. It's old military technique to do 7 to 10 degrees on the horizon, and they just teach you different little techniques like that. I was in the Army, 31 Victor Tactical Communications, and in 1983, and worked on some of the first what civilians now call global positioning satellite systems, but back then they were in a big aluminum suitcase, You'd have to carry two of them out to wherever you were going to establish the front line and open these big things up. And it had a small satellite dish in it, and you would establish the front lines for the Marines or whoever's coming behind you, and that's why you had to learn this stuff. So,
gotcha. That's something I should look into. It would really help in determining the size. So, but yeah, another thing I eventually got into shortly after August, September 2011 was infrared, and that's really helped out too. I had seen, and at this time I had a lot of work on my plate, and I was in my studio fighting against the deadline, and I didn't really have time to correlate with too many people out there. And but I did see some guys filming in infrared, whether it was like a Sony night cam or some kind of special rig. But that seemed to help detect them. And what I learned through infrared, and I ended up just taking these cheap little cameras and converting two of them to full spectrum, and then slapping filters on top, which blocked out everything but infrared or everything but ultraviolet. That would give me a clearer, sharper image of the clouds in the sky. Even though it took out the color, it really helped. Because as you know, even today when I was outside, it's very bright. You can barely look towards the sun. But setting up a stationary camera like this that doesn't get blinded by it certainly helped. So that's kind of the next technique that I used to try to pick out these craft.
That's what Dawn Hall does too. I think she just spent like $5 or $6 grand on her cameras, and they're all different spectrums of light, including like what you just mentioned, infrared, and it's amazing because it opens up your eye, technically speaking, to a whole different realm of existence, like these rods and these like little fish that fly around in the sky. And last night, my roommate had a white ball come right in his window, go around his head in the bedroom, and then zap out through the side of the wall. That was just last night. It kind of creeped us out.
I bet it would. Skyfish. That's certainly another strange thing with this whole whatever it may be. And I picked those up accidentally. I didn't even expect that to happen. But in the infrared footage that I was filming, I would look at it initially and speed it up, and speeding it up would show me better the direction of the clouds or the energy vortexes of the craft or whatever. It was only slowing down the footage to where I started seeing these white streaks, and initially I'm thinking, okay, that's got to be a bug or something like that. Well, it turned out that it wasn't, because once I compared the video images of wasps and moths and birds that would come flying, across the screen, and compared it to these white things, it was totally different. So yeah, infrared is, in a way, it's like looking into another dimension. These are just things we can't see, but the camera can pick them up and translate them into essentially white light. So that's the way it shows up in the videos. But yeah, slowing them down, started to pick up on these things, and there was one that came in really close to the camera, and I didn't see it obviously when I was recording, and it was probably 2 months later I was going back and reviewing the footage, and this one in particular, I still can't describe it, and there's not many correlations out there to say what it was. I have found a few, but these rods are all over the place. So I tried to contact Jose Escamilla, who's been studying this since, he's been doing it for at least 20 years now, I think, at this point, and I finally got in touch with him. So some of my footage is going to be used in his new movie, They Live in the Skies. So, but yeah, a lot of people are starting to photograph these things. In fact, I found them in regular visual spectrum images as well. They just don't show up as well.
Jose Escamilla, he's amazing, and he filmed a lot of them in the those big sinkholes and stuff where they do the diving, the sky diving into those sinkholes, and it's really cool. Yeah. And the amazing thing is people have been picking up what appears to be like fairies and really bizarre life forms on their security cameras, and I really did a lot of I would save those videos, and then I would go through them with a fine-tooth comb and try all different spectrums on them, and I can't identify those as any dragonflies that I'm aware of or anything like that. And I'm one of these strange people. I can summon UFOs and all kinds of energies at night if my energy's right and I'm in a positive frame of mind. I've done it many times. I mean, whole fleets of small UFOs fly right over my head with all different color lights under them. Red orbs come out of nowhere and get bigger and bigger and then just fall into a million sparks and stuff like this. So I've just been really good at doing that. What is this stuff? I don't have a clue, Sean.
Yeah, nor do I. But in the beginning, I thought I was going to be able to really answer this and say it's definitely this. But that's not my job. I think at this point, I think my job is to just show people what they look like and how to find them. And I'm not going to get too many answers out of the government or the military. But if this is going to get to the next level, it's going to be more like a grassroots type effort, where we just kind of know that they're there and then try to ask big questions later. So the people I've connected with around the world who do this, we are at the point where we know what's up there. And it's triangles, it's pyramid craft, it's long tubes, it's orbs, it's other weird-looking things. We're just trying to find out who's putting on the show at this point.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Now, what I've tried to do is look at ancient texts, and these are texts of great antiquity, and figure it out that way. But that's so limited in scope because you have the Anunnaki, and you have the people in China, or the Mongoloids supposedly came from the Draconian universe, and the Anunnaki came from Sirius, probably Sirius C. One of my heavy metal songs talks about that. Then you have the Dogon tribes that came, I think, from Sirius A, and then you have the all different factions that terraformed this planet, and that makes the most sense to me as far as just logic. And I think the big gang is back, and they're finding this little gang has taken over their terraformed terrarium, if you will. And I think that's what's going on. And our government, unfortunately, I think it's all supposition, got in bed with the wrong guys,
That sounds about right to me. That makes a lot of sense. It's tough for me to accept these kind of things, as I said, because I really don't have a background in it. But I've had to definitely accept the fact that this may be the case. Initially, I pointed towards rumors of Blue Beam, which is a fake alien invasion put on by the New World Order elite types. And I think that maybe some of this is part of that. And it, especially because of the holograms. I picked up on a lot of hologram faces. So then my question would be, why do aliens need holograms? But yeah, these other things, listening to interviews with Zachariah Sitchin and different people, it could very, very well point to the return of whoever this may be. And wouldn't that be fascinating? And that sets my mind at ease, actually, a little bit more than having all these things just be some kind of crazy military hoax.
And I studied the bloodlines, okay, because I think this is a very integral part of understanding what's going on above our heads. And my bloodline happens to be Rh negative. I'm Scottish and German, and I got that from my mom's side of the family. And the Rh negative blood, scientists call it alien blood. They don't know where it came from. And then you study further into ancient history, going back about 500,000 years, according to Sumerian tablets, cuneiform tablets, and all these quote-unquote lower G gods, or the demiurge, were Rh negative, and they were very reptilian, and this explains their psychopathic behavior towards their creation. And so you had one part of the creators that never wanted to create us. They knew it was immoral. And you had the other side, the biblical God, that just went out of his way to torture and genocide as many of us as possible. And I think you have these two warring factions going on in the Bible, Baal, or Satan, or Enki, and then you have Yahweh or Enlil or Yaldabaoth, and I believe the same factions that were warring back then. Remember, the Bible's just telling you a story that's really a 500,000 years old, passed down oral tradition, and so I think that's what's going on. The same warring factions are in charge today, and the priesthood class of my bloodline, sadly to say, are controlling the planet, and they're all psychos, in my opinion.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think the answers to a lot of this are in the Vatican archives. They have 52 miles of shelving that are allowed only to them. And I think over the years they've come and scooped up this info and tucked it away. So I think, they're probably onto this. And there's some talk about the Vatican doing some kind of disclosure event or announcement this year. So I think that would be fascinating. And one of the latest things I've been picking up on, and it takes me a while to look at something and then make a statement. I can't see it just once. I've got to see it at least 10, 20 times to say, okay, this is what's appearing. But the latest thing I've been able to pick up on is pyramid craft. And some of them are triangles that are flat with long rectangular bottoms, but some of them are square bottoms and literally pyramids. So what does that point to? I think maybe you know.
I don't know. I don't have a clue, Sean. But it seems like that would be the demiurge Anunnaki, which nobody knows their real name, because Anunnaki is a Sumerian term that means from heaven to earth came or fell. So nobody knows their real name. They're just they're beastly giant aliens that look at us like, chickens. I mean, do you feel bad for chickens when you drive through Kentucky Fried Chicken drive-through? I mean, I think that's how they look at us,
Right. There's been a term that's getting floated around the airwaves recently, and it's morally superior. And, they just might be. And this is something I've never really talked about, but if you consider the way we treat, like you're saying, the way we treat our animals here on this planet, we just slaughter them, kill them for fun. These guys are coming in and tagging and releasing us, and that's what the abductions are all about. That's not as cruel as what we do to the ones we consider under us. And I find that pretty fascinating, too. So I hope it's a benevolent force coming in. They expect me to dress up in a diaper and start building pyramids. That ain't going to happen. But I don't think that's the case. I try to have as much positive hope about this thing as possible. But I do go back and forth, positive, negative. I just don't know what to think nowadays. Me too,
because I love animals, and I've really been trying to go vegan, and I've rescued thousands of animals, manatees, and the 25 years in Florida, I would swim the manatees across the shipping lanes with a big orange cone and an orange life vest on and swim, whole families of manatees across the shipping lanes and the high-speed boat lanes, and almost got killed many times and saved dolphins and, unwrapped pelicans from fishing line. And I have a real heart and compassion for animals, but sadly, that's the minority of the human race. I mean, if you look at the factory farming, like you said and alluded to earlier, the way we treat animals, and it's horrifying to me. And so I don't really see the human race as being that great of a construct, and because of a few of us are loving spiritual beings who may have incarnated here just for this time, doesn't make all the rest of doesn't make us a good thing. That's like having two good dogs that don't bite, but the other 1,000 dogs you have all bite and they're rabid and they don't care about one another.
Right. I agree. Definitely.
It's sad, John. It's sad, and I think people like us that get involved in this kind of thing and, actually put our personal life at risk because, you lose friendships and you create new ones, though. Like, I created a whole bunch of new friends with the constitutional sheriffs and peace officers with my 20 years of law study. I created whole new friendships with people that do care about freedom for the human race, because this is a slave planet, and we're a farm animal, and each country is a different farm, and each state is a different farm. That's why you need permission to leave the farm and go to, let's say, Mexico. You need a permission slip. We're farm animals. We're domesticated farm animals, and we're domesticated stock, and I think we've been created and shipped all over the Milky Way galaxy, and we're in the Sagittarian galaxy. A lot of people don't know that. We're actually in the Sagittarian galaxy, and we're colliding into the side of the Milky Way, but that's another show some other time.
Right. Sorry about that. Let me turn this phone on. But yeah, that's something that's definitely crossed my mind. I'm a different person now after looking into all of this stuff, and it's changed me for the better. And yeah, I'm not total vegan yet, but I've certainly eat a lot less meat, and I look at it in a very different way. So yeah, I think it's been a blessing overall. And has it been threatening to my life? I don't know. I really haven't received any threats or anything like that. But in terms of friendships, yeah, I've lost a few. Certainly have lost more faith and trust in people, unfortunately. But on the opposite side, I've picked up a lot of interesting friends who understand this to some degree. And that's been through communication over the Internet. I think it's a wonderful device. And it's really helped out. If I wouldn't have had Internet communication, I don't know where I'd be at this point. I probably would have forgotten about it and never really pursued the whole thing. But it was connecting with other people who were very encouraging. Even times where I just wanted to give up. And they said, no, keep going, or take a break, or, you'll be back, or something like that. So they've really helped out.
Yeah, it's the same with my music, Sean. I realized how corrupt the music business was, because I love singing opera, and I love playing classical and neoclassical guitar. But when I realized how corrupt the music industry is, literally corrupt to the core, I gave up on it in the 90s, and then I just started posting stuff on the internet. And by 2004, I had over 20 million people that had heard my music for free. I didn't make any money. That's the thing, and now it's in the tens of millions worldwide. And that's really cool. That would have never happened without the internet. Because I'm a white guy from Detroit with the last name Miller, so it doesn't work in opera.
Okay.
Little funny sideline there. We can't, if we take all this stuff too seriously, we'll lose it. And doing what I've done, from being on Coast to Coast AM with John B. Wells for 4 hours before he got fired, and disclosing all kinds of things in 2011, things people never thought of about the Queen and the Queen mom that died. Well, how come her casket was 12 feet long and took like 20 guys to carry it? I disclosed what derivatives are and how they work with insurance companies, and why they wanted to depopulate the Gulf Coast so people would sell their property, and guess what? Pay off the derivatives to go back to the Queen, who owns the BP oil rig managed by Halliburton. And I went on for 4 hours on law, and it wasn't too long after that they fired John B. Wells. And now I think he's afraid to have me on the Caravan to Midnight, but we're still friends. But so, and I haven't been threatened or anything. I've had some bizarre incidences as far as my dog and myself were zapped by some kind of a weapon in 2010. And when I was working on an Over Unity science project outside of Wurtsmith Air Force Base there in Oscoda, Michigan, and voice-to-skull technology, I guess they call it. I was working with this high-level government contractor, and he gave me a place to camp while I showed him my Over Unity generator prototypes, and he had all these scientists photograph them and film them, which wasn't part of the agreement, but I didn't say anything. And that night in my tent, I had my little German Shepherd and my Beagle German Shepherd, and Bunny, my Chow Chow, sleeping right next to me, and I was listening to George Norrie on my smartphone, and all of a sudden I hear this woman's voice, and I thought she was outside my tent, or actually in my tent. She goes, "Steven, you remember dying here?" And I jumped up and like, what the hell, you know? And I got my Q-beam spotlight and ran around outside and looking for this person, and nobody. And the dogs aren't barking, and that didn't make sense because they're both, you know, very trained guard dogs. And went back and laid down, Sean, and just started to unwind enough to put George Norrie back on because I had paused it. And I hear this lady's voice again, crystal clear. And now she was exacerbated, and she goes, "Stephen, do you remember dying here?" She said it just like that. And I said, "Holy crap." And I packed up my minivan. I put my electric motorcycles in there, prototypes I built. I gave a lot of them away to the kids that lived around there for free. And I waited till daybreak because I didn't want to drive at night. And I hauled buggy out to the beach there and just put my lawn chair in the water to fish for perch and drink beer and try to forget all this stuff. And that's when I got zapped. And my dog, to prove it wasn't just a mental thing, we both got zapped. And she died a few months later. And she crawled underneath the minivan, and her tongue was dilated and her eyes were dilated. And I crawled back to my car. I couldn't get any air in my chest. About an hour later, I finally crawled underneath the minivan and dragged her out. And then we drove back to Detroit to my mom's house, and I went and got my heart checked, and my heart valve was pretty much blown out, and they wanted to do emergency surgery. And my dog died shortly after that, and they couldn't explain that. She was in perfect health. And so I've stayed away from, the science that I've studied for about 25 years. If you look at my F-150 on YouTube, it's 125 miles to a gallon that I built for an elderly Jewish man that has a lot of money. So the technology is getting out there from guys like me and stuff, but be careful, you know.
Yeah. They haven't messed with me as far as I know. Some of the other people that do this have been messed with, unfortunately, and enough to where they've kind of backed off a little bit. And some of the people have been visited, you know, in the front yard, and other people have been visited by strange glowing orbs and gray fellows. So there's a range of harassment going out there. I stay at home a lot because I work at home. I mean, I admit I keep a Glock 45 next to my desk for any problem, but if I step out to the back porch and have a cigarette, all they need to do is send in one of these guys in a cloaked outfit, and just that'll be the end of me real quick. But so far, so good. And I don't really worry about it, though. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Sometimes I think, well, I'm so far off base, they don't really care. But
right,
just something, you know, whatever it is.
Right, and I don't worry about it either, Sean. I've had a lot of weird incidents. Like, I interviewed Sheriff Mack, 2 days ago, and then the next day there's this black thing right over my house. I'm sharing with a friend, here in the mountains. And then that night, a white ball comes through his bedroom window and floats around the room. And so, and you got to wonder, Sheriff Mack was in perfect health. He worked out almost every day, and he has a massive heart attack. And his wife's been having horrible health issues and mental, I shouldn't say mental, but emotional problems. And I told him, I said, Sheriff, you need to keep your cell phone and your Wi-Fi stuff at a separate location because they're triangulating in on you, and they use microwave weaponry and all kinds of stuff we can't even imagine. And I'm sorry, but I think we're targeted individuals, and if I'm still alive in a year, that's great. If I'm not, I'm not really afraid to die, Sean. I've died several times, literally been dead and had to been resuscitated, and there was no fear there. It was a wonderful thing, actually, and I was actually pissed off they brought me back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, back to the planet ghetto, which is what I recently refer to this place as. It's just one big ghetto, or a farm, as you like to say. But I try to keep a sense of humor about the whole thing, and yeah, I don't care if they take me out. No big deal. It'll just maybe validate what I've been saying for 3.5 years at this point. So, but I'm not too worried about it. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, me too. I'm not a big believer in any theology or man-made gods because that's based on these aliens, these ancient aliens or demigods or demiurge or the priesthood class, created all this stuff to control the farm animals, us. But I do believe there's some kind of a supernatural thing going on in the universe, but it doesn't necessarily prove that there's this all-encompassing energy behind it. It might just be a part of nature that when your body stops, that your consciousness moves on, but there might not be anything behind it. There might not be a prime mover, in other words, you know.
Yeah, maybe not. That's one of the things that I thought about for a long time, but I definitely believe in an afterlife now. I think this is one big game, and we are just the players in this big silly game, and I think it's coming to a head at some point. And hopefully, this is the next step to what do they call it? Ascension, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is, I mean, if you read the ancient Nag Hammadi, the Gospels found in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, and it talks about the archons, and then it talks about the aeons in the center of our galaxy. They're basically computer programmers, okay, and Sophia Gaia loved the creation so much that her energy shot out of the black hole, and you can still see a trail coming right to where Earth is. That's where they get this information from, and that if you read that stuff, according to them, we're living in a computer algorithm. This is a giant computer game. It's a construct of artificial reality, but our consciousness was a accidental benefit to this creation that they didn't expect to happen. That's what I've read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I should really start looking into at this point. I've picked up on some of it, but not as much as you have. Kind of in-depth study that you've done. There's probably some answers just sitting there waiting to be found. And some of the things I have looked into were Vimana, which supposedly these ancient craft. And with the reports of those, I've definitely found some correlations in terms of shape and the way they act. So to me, there's a chance that, yeah, there are Vimanas around. And I think there's also cloaked military craft around as well. And I've done enough research on the military side of things to pretty firmly say 99% positive that we've got anti-gravity cloaked craft around. And I think some of those are what I was picking up on. But after about a year, I realized or left the option open to supernatural things, some of these ancient vehicles. So I think we've got both going on up above, and I like the fact that you brought up this intergalactic heavenly war, because it just may be a war going on right above our heads. People think about this stuff and maybe think it's happening somewhere out in deep space, but I think it's a lot closer than we really realize.
Right, and the chemtrails are a direct part of that, because what they do is, see, that's a missile defense system, and this is one of my other studies, because that's what I do. I'm an academic, but I've read all 700 plus patents on the chemtrails, and it's a missile defense system where they can energize the ionosphere or the stratosphere, because they have different layers of this missile defense, and they can energize that, and it reaches such a high temperature the missiles can't pass through it, like multiple independently programmed re-entry vehicles or MIRVed. They can't pass through it when it's energized. Then the other patents, were redacted, a lot of it, but obviously it's to keep out these higher power demigods, if you will, or the demiurge, because if they can affect the atmosphere, they can actually keep their ships from coming in here. Because if they have a threatening ship come in that they deem as a threat, they can heat up the ionosphere right there to like 1,000,000 degrees very quickly with high altitude auroral research program type directed energy weapons and stuff. So it's really a war between terra firma down here where we're sitting, and whoever these other people are that I believe are very accurately described. The Vimanas come out of the Hindu, the people of the Hind, going back literally hundreds of thousands of years, the Sanskrit, and the Puranas and stuff like that. So I think you're exactly right, Sean. I'm glad you brought that up. So.
Yeah, the chemtrail connection is major. And currently what we have are different groups that realize that chemtrails are real, and they are holding to their certain beliefs, whether they're claiming that it's solar radiation management, which is nonsense because why would they spray at night, weather control, depopulation, and so on and so forth. And these camps are fighting back and forth, and it's unfortunate. Some of us realize the chemtrail connection with the craft, and I think that's quite important. So if you really want to talk chemtrails, you have to include the craft in there. And at least some of these programs, if not all, but I'd say at least some of them have to do with these massive crafts in our atmosphere. So there's 3 ways or 3 different options that I've kind of come up with, and I'm definitely pointing towards, it's essentially a warfare. One being that these were military craft, which is what I believed initially. Chemtrails were like a refueling method, a mid-air refueling, to where these craft didn't have to land and they were just supplying them with whatever they needed. If these were beneficial or benevolent ET craft, then they're fighting them off. And if it's a war, it sounds like they're maybe tilting the balance of power in one favor, one direction or another. The other option I still leave open is that chemtrails are something different, and these craft are getting caught up in the middle of it just by accident. But really, when you think about it, no, they have to be involved in some way. And for people, I've read this one for sure. Public Law HR 105-85 kind of lays out the law allowing for this madness to take place. And on the surface, it seems like it's a protective thing. But once you read the fine print and the exceptions, you realize, well, it kind of allows anything that they want to do, spray anything that they want, because they put that word national, those words national security in there, and that voids anything. So that's something that people should look into for sure.
You're right, Sean, and it's frightening in many aspects because I'm a very compassionate guy, and I'm a realist, but I'm also how do I say it? I would like to see everybody be healthy and happy, but that can't happen until everybody's educated. Right now, we live not only in a nation of idiots, dumbed down retards, but we live in a world of dumbed down retards, and so nobody can point their finger at America when their own country is just as dictatorial, if not worse, than our own. But
yeah, I hear you, and at this point, nor do I. I think I've found my quote mission, and I'm trying to do it as much as I can, and that's just getting the info out there. But it's interesting you mentioned that because I'm an artist by trade. That's what I've done all my life, and in the same way you're an artist, you sing, you play music. I think it takes some of those skills to not only kind of realize what's going on in the world, but for me, visually, I think it's really helped me pick out these crafts. And because I've been a creative person all my life, and I can create, but I can also decreate. I can reverse engineer something. I can look at it and actually break it down instead of building it up. And it's really helped with not only finding the craft, but how they operate, how they move. And so it's been quite fascinating. But I also want to bring up, there was an article that came out, it was about 2 weeks ago, and it talks about 25% of humans have a fourth cone in their eyes. You've got rods and you've got cones. And as I said, 25% of the people have it. And what it allows us to do is distinguish between colors better. And so many researchers, we go back and forth on our groups online, and we say to ourselves, why can't other people see this? Can they just not pick them out? Is there's something different with the vision? And that just may be the case. Some people are blind, some people are colorblind to different degrees. And I think, according to this little article, some of us have better vision than others. So I think that probably comes into play. And I was hoping in the beginning that everybody could see this, everybody could check it out. But I know now that some people just can't see it. They'll try and try and try, and it just doesn't come. For me, it's natural now. I'll walk out and I'll pick out craft all the time. I saw some earlier this morning. Did I photograph them? No. I'm starting to cut back on that a lot because of time concerns and space on the hard drive, stuff like that. I'm continuing to do it. But I think things like that.
You're an amazing individual, my friend, and because I never noticed this stuff, and I'm always filming chemtrails, and it's just weird because as soon as you pointed it out to me through your work, suddenly I could see it, and it started almost bugging me because I'd see a chemtrail and I'd see a perfect white, like didn't even fit in the center triangle right in the middle of the chemtrail, and it would be there for a while, and I'd see it move the opposite direction of the chemtrail in the clouds. It's like, okay, well, I can see these things now, and it's starting to freak me out.
Yep, I've been through it, trust me. In fact, that first August 2011, I saw one uncloaked, and that threw me for a loop, and, starting to pick them out more and more and more. So, yeah, I've had my roller coaster ride of, am I completely crazy or not? But it was really connecting with other people online to realize, no, I'm not nuts. This is real. And you're just picking out the edges of the craft and picking out the second side and the third side, and then realizing the engines and so on and so forth. It's like taking the red pill out of the Matrix. Once you see these things, you can't unsee them.
Here's something that's going to blow your mind, Sean. There's a certain amount of human beings. We look like human beings, but we're not. Okay, and we're now starting to awaken and realize, wait a minute, I don't like the stuff of the world. Most people drive to work every day, and they drive their car like a badge of honor, and their credit cards, they flash them around, and they're totally involved and entrapped in the system, and they love the filth and degeneracy of the system. They don't want to hear anything negative about it. Now you're their enemy, but I give off a spiritual energy that people can actually feel, and you either love it and you'll feel massive around it, or you'll see these people repel. I can walk through Walmart and you'll see people that are in front of me all of a sudden turn around and look at me with their eyes bugged open and move out of my way like I smell bad. Okay, now check this out, dude. Yeah, check this out. I was in a restaurant with a very wealthy land baron friend of mine, and who owns mountain land, and we're working together on bug out property for people. And children are attracted to me. And I mean, little tiny toddlers, and we're eating at this nice fancy Mexican restaurant in Huntsville, Arkansas. And this little toddler, the cutest little kid you ever seen in camouflage with little boots on, he was about not even a year old, came running up to me with his arms open, wide open, and wrapped himself around my knee. And his grandmother came running up. She goes, "Oh my God, that's completely unusual. He doesn't even like men." And then she tore him off of me, and 5 minutes later, here comes this little kid again, running up to me with his eyes bugged open, and everybody's looking like, what the hell, And this gets back into chemtrails real quick, and your ships, okay? So wherever these spiritual beings are that are trying to bring light to the world, okay, they chemtrail over that. They can see it, okay? And I moved into neighborhoods where they hadn't even seen that many chemtrails. They said, since you've lived here, they've been spraying the hell out of us. Why is that? In Missouri, in Mountain View, I was staying at a friend's on 23 acres, incognito, just camping and doing a lot of diving. I dive for ancient artifacts and gold and stuff all summer. And I moved in. I swear, Sean, there was no chemtrails whatsoever for weeks, and all of a sudden I was barraged every day until I had to move again.
Bombarding, yeah, they were doing that here this morning. It's total whiteout now. You can barely see the sky. Yeah, they've been hitting it pretty hard, and it's not letting up. And but yeah, I like that. I like what you're saying. It sounds like maybe that kid saw an aura around you, and I think children can see different things.
Yeah, I said, hey, little buddy, and I said, you're the cutest little man, and his grandmom's just sitting there with this awestruck look on her face. Like, she goes, I don't understand this. This is like this makes no sense at all. But they do this, dude. They're breaking our connection with the spiritual astral realm, if you will, with these chemtrails. So when they see these spiritual beings, they spray all over you because they want to break that connection with that realm. I'm convinced of it.
I can certainly believe that. Makes sense to me. I think it's far-reaching beyond just so-called weather manipulation. There's a lot more to it. And some of the things that are said out there about chemtrails, oh boy, I still can't fathom. I can't accept it, even though it may be true. But there's beliefs all over the place. In fact, I'd mentioned in an interview the other day about certain people believe that chemtrails are an alien DNA upgrade. Now that one, I can just say no, not buying that one. But there's so much crazy stuff going on.
That's complete BS. If they wanted to upgrade our DNA, they would have started it. They created us with 90%. Of our DNA or genes, completely disabled. I think we could fly. We can leave if you look at the pyramids and go into the king's chamber and lay in the king's chamber, you'll realize that was designed so they could travel from here back to their star system. And then somebody would remind them and stand by the sarcophagus and say, remember, you're light traveling. You need to come back now. Okay, this is what the pyramids were designed for, and people aren't grasping it. And that's what you and I are, or anybody that's awake, and you can just tell them immediately, by their photos, by their music, by their work, that these are not of this human race.
Oh, my God. Can I tell you a quick story about Walmart?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you brought it up, and it's just something, and it actually relates to this, and listening to all the shows, the radio shows that I do now, and all this good information, there's a lot of talk about ones that walk amongst us that we wouldn't necessarily realize because they look just like us. And I've heard a lot of that, and I think that may be the case. There's a lot of angel interventions, stories out there, and let me back up. When I decided to make my video series, I'd really made up my mind in November 2011, and I just finished off. I illustrate children's books, so I had a deadline. I got all the books out so they could be printed and shipped back into the city for Christmas and Black Friday and all that. So I had to make a decision. So I said, well, I'm going to go with this, and I've got a few bucks that I can ride off for a while, and I'm going to put this series out. And my target date is June 2nd, 2012. So I spent, that end of winter and beginning of spring and also into the summer there, just putting it all together. And at the last minute, I was rendering videos and archiving and testing and checking out mistakes and having to go back. And so it was pretty crazy in the last few days. I was pretty stuck to that deadline. But what I do is I get up to get the blood flowing in the morning. I used to go walking on the levee when it was cool, but it was too hot at that point. So I found myself getting up early, running over to Walmart and walking around there and do what I call zombie watching, because it is pretty funny, the things that you'll see in a Walmart. So this is kind of a routine, and I think it was June 2nd, that day, when I was going to start releasing. Could have been the day before, but for some reason it's a little bit hazy. But I go in there, I walk around a few times, I pick up a few things, get in line, and behind me is a guy I had made eye contact with, just briefly, just looking down an aisle. And I just didn't think of it, there it was, whatever. But he starts talking to me, and he's really trying to get my attention, but I'm not listening to what he's saying because I don't, first of all, I'm shy. I really don't talk to people out in public. But in Walmart, you run into a lot of weirdos, so I just kind of tried to brush it off. But he's really trying to get my attention, and I'm thinking, I hope this guy's, I hope he's not hitting on me or something. It's not going to work out too well. Instantly, he starts talking about his wife. And I'm still not really listening to what he's saying, but he's being so persistent. I'm turning around, nodding, and so on and so forth. But what he was getting to, he started mentioning all these people from New Orleans that he's read about in newspapers. And he read about this one guy who started a pizza franchise, and it went nationwide, and he makes so many million a year, and so on and so forth. And another guy from New Orleans who owns a basketball team, and he makes a lot of money each year. On and on and on. And I'm like, okay, I just found it really strange. Why is he telling me this? So I checked out, I'm grabbing my bags, and right before I walk off, he goes, I hope to see you in the paper someday. And I thought that was just completely weird, especially here I was about to release these movies, didn't know what I was doing. I was winging it. I'm like, I'm going to get them out there. I'm going to start uploading tonight. Why did he tell me that? I don't know. And I just turned to him and I said, well, I think you will. And that was it, and walked off. But it was too creepy for it to be a random encounter. And I have a feeling that guy knew what I was up to. I'd never seen him before in my life. And if I had to describe him, he kind of looked like Julian Assange. Like if he was a member of a family, it would be that. He was too young to have straight white hair, normal-looking fellow, looked just like us. But I have a feeling he may have been one of them. I don't know. Hopefully, there's a few angelic types that are looking over us. So I like to subscribe to that for sure. Nothing prepared me for this. I don't want to be here. This just came out of the blue, really, literally. The only things that happened in the past, in 1993, I was driving with a friend to South Carolina for a bachelor party, and somewhere around the Alabama-Mississippi border, there was an orange ball of light that came zooming down the highway, very fast, lasted, for about, under 2 seconds, I'd say. That was really my only UFO sighting before all of this. What else has happened? There was a little, in about 1991, 1990, I was at LSU, and I had an apartment by a forest, and there was a little gray thing that would come up and mess with us every once in a while. We didn't know what it was until I saw it one night right at the edge of the forest, and that was the last time anything happened there with this guy. And if I were to describe it, it was about 5 feet tall. It was gray, but it had no features whatsoever, no facial features or body features. It was like somebody wrapped up in one of those tight Halloween type suits, but in gray. So that was weird. I did get a mark on my arm in '83 or early '84. It was kind of like a typical crosshair abduction mark, but it was much more elaborate than that. It was very geometrical, and it appeared overnight. There was no pain. It wasn't like a typical mark, which is a burn mark. This is more of a cut. If you were to take an X-Acto and just kind of break the skin, and lasted for about a day and a half. But I have no memories of abduction experiences or anything. And if they did, fine. What am I going to do about it at this point? Do I want to go under hypnosis? No, it just doesn't matter to me. But yeah, they tagged me, and I think that it was maybe a reminder for nowadays, saying that things aren't what you think they are, and things are quite different. And here's a little reminder.
Let me tell you something strange that just recently happened to me and Sheriff Mack, and he can testify to this. I'll give you his cell phone number. I felt you need to call Sheriff, Mack. I just call him Richard, but on the air I call him Sheriff out of respect, because what he's done for our country is mind-bending, and he's like my best friend, okay, literally. Listen to that show we did 2 days ago, and you'll hear it. He loves me, I love him, but I called him on the phone. It's about 3 months ago when I was being chem-trailed to death in Mountain View, Missouri, and he was winded. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Richard, this is a bad time. Want me to call you back?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "How are you doing?" I said, I'm doing pretty good. I got to make a move here pretty soon for certain reasons." And I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm just finishing my workout. Want me to call you back?" I said, No. I just called to tell you you're surrounded by love and spiritual beings, and you're protected." And he hesitated because he's a devout Christian, and I'm not. And he goes, "Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you very much." I said, "I love you, man." And I hung up. and he had a massive heart attack, not even 30 seconds later. And he drove himself to the hospital. The doctor said, I don't know why you're alive. It's not even possible. I don't even know how you drove here. You have a 100% occluded major artery. We have to go in right now and put in a stent if we can get a stent in there. And you'll hear about this on the show we did 2 days ago. But Sean, there's not very many of us that are that deeply in tune with the universe. And I think that's what's protected me, and it protects my friends or anybody that associates with me. They'll immediately notice, there's something different about their own life.
Sure. I feel the same way. I feel bad killing a mosquito nowadays. And people know I shoot a lot of guns, but I don't hunt. I just hunt paper. I like to target shoot. But I'm not into hunting or anything like that, really. Yeah, not something I should be admitting, but but yeah, I do like to go out to the swamp and do a little target.
Oh no! There's nothing wrong with having guns, but they're not for animals or for people. They're only for self-defense and last-ditch effort. So I'm not boasting. There are people that are better than other people, and I get sick of this communist freaking BS. Like, we're all just dumb together. Nobody's better than the other person.
Yep. I agree. We're heading down a bad road here, and I think it's coming to a head. And the way I look at the whole situation, it's either really, really good or really, really bad. Try to keep a positive attitude towards this whole thing, and it doesn't freak me out anymore. I mean, I'm beyond that, and but the people who are just coming into this, whether it be noticing the craft up above or having some kind of strange experiences of something else, they're going to freak out. And I think it's going to be our job to kind of help them through it.
Let me tell you something. I'm not optimistic, Sean, because we have terrible karma in this country. We genocided 90 million Native Americans. They're not called Indians, okay? That's because Columbus showed up and thought he landed in India. Okay, but they're not Indians, they're Native Americans, and people are just stupid. They're stupid in history, they're stupid in music, and math, and law, and the Constitution, the Magna Carta, Article 6. They don't know anything. We took an oath to protect this country and the principles that are the foundation of this country, of freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms that shall not be infringed, etc. That soldiers shall not be quartered in your house, that you shall not be searched and seized without a warrant and stating who is to be searched and seized, and the Fifth Amendment, etc. Okay.
So, well, what do we do at that point? I mean, this country, we're not doing too good. But what's the solution? Is it knowledge? Is it getting the information out there? Is it showing people chemtrails? I don't know.
I've come to the conclusion, Sean, that I hate to be down in the mouth or I'm on like any truther on quotes or twoofer or whatever they want to call me you'll ever meet, because I'm a realist. Okay, the human race on this planet, this little blue orb. I'm just going to be honest. I don't see any hope whatsoever. Even the majority of the truth movement is a bunch of idiots.
Okay. Well, we're pretty much screwed.
Well, I'm sorry to say it like that, dude, but come on. I had a Department of Homeland Security agent call me 4 days ago looking for bug-out property, dude. You believe that?
Then even those guys are getting nervous.
Well, they better get real damn nervous, because the dollar is going to collapse. And if you can't... Okay, how did Rome collapse? Okay, and the Byzantine Empire, and the Khazarian Empire, and all these... How did they collapse? Because their currency turned to crap, where they were giving the Roman soldiers shard, wine, and salt for payment. And what happened before you know it? The Roman Senate was hung from the highest tree. And that's where we're at now. If you can't pay your soldiers and your police you're doomed, okay? Much less the DHS and FEMA and all these agencies stacked upon agencies that are unconstitutional. They're not elected officials. If you're not an elected official, you're not squat.
Right. Right. Maybe they've got their ticket and we don't.
Not according to the Department of Homeland Security official I just talked to in Buffalo, New York. He was very kind to me, and I said, "Hey, just make sure I'm not on the terrorist watch list," and I giggled, and he didn't laugh. He didn't laugh. And I said, and he goes, "Well, email me your information." So I emailed him, where I could help him out with mountain land, and he emailed me back. He goes, "Give me a call." So I called him. He goes, "Are you aware of the temporary morgue set up on the Mississippi River in Arkansas and Missouri?" I said, "Yeah. You mean for the New Madrid Fault Zone that all our enemies are targeting to make it go off?" And he said, "Oh, you know a lot, don't you?" I said, "More than what you even have a clue about." And he goes, "Well," "I'm going to avoid that geological area altogether, but I think you're safe where you're at."
Oh, I know I'm not. I've seen the maps. If that thing goes off, New Orleans is bye-bye.
You're welcome here, and it's a different world here. And we have mountains of property and wild horses and elk, and God, for lack of better terminology, has been so good to me. And I've got a 350-foot building I'm converting into apartments, and it overlooks a beautiful mountain. I got 2 ponds, and it's just the most amazing thing going on. And all my friends are welcome there. This is a spiritual. This is a spiritual place.
Sounds fascinating. Well, listen, Stephen, I got to get running here in a little bit, and I guess wanted to wrap up the show. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
Nope, I'm good, and I'll edit out all my little microphone changes. You're supported by very loving, spiritual people by the tens of millions. Okay, you're not alone, and this isn't going to go down the way they want it to go down. Period. Okay.
Well, we've got a lot of patriots down here in Louisiana as well.
I got a map, dude. The water is going to be right up to my mountain range.
Oh, sounds good to me.
I'll tell you, it's Madison County. So look it up, Madison County, Arkansas. The closest town to us, which is a little bit of a distance, is called Huntsville. And you've never met such loving, wonderful, spiritual people in your life. And nobody's going to take us down. I don't care what they try. Remember this, Sean. They couldn't win Vietnam, the Korean War, Iraq, Afghanistan. They've not won a single war. Even World War II was not a win, okay? If you think about it.
Right. I agree. Yeah, those guys are still around. And I think a lot of them are sitting up in D.C. right now. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get pretty frustrated with the whole thing myself, and I hope for the best, but it's not looking too good. I just hope there's some kind of huge change, in the immediate future.
Everybody, thank you for listening to the Real World Show with Steve and John Miller, and
thanks so much for having me on.
And I'll stay on for a second. I'm going to fade to black here. Thanks again for listening. God bless you. Bye.